Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special spooky Natty news. My name is Anwar the Natty Ninja, and I'm joined with Spider-Man. Spider-Man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm taking a day off from saving New York to be on this podcast, and our host Pat is mysteriously missing today.
Oh man, yeah, I think Pat. It's hard to tell where he is. I've never seen you and Pat in the same room together ever. Like, I've never noticed that you and Pat have never been together once.
I think it's a total coincidence, definitely. Pat's just really busy with his physio life, so we just needed someone to fill in for him today.
Well, Spider-Man, we couldn't have thought of a better hero today to talk. Now, Spider-Man, I know one of your big villains is the Green Goblin, but today we want to talk about Gain's Goblins. The Gains Goblins are what those things that hold you back from maximizing your gains at the gym, and I can't think of anything spookier in this spooky time.
Yeah, the Gaines Goblin is, in the new Spider-Man movie that's coming out starring me. They say the Green Goblin coming back, but it really is the Gaines Goblin, and I'm pretty terrified myself because, what's more scary than a goblin that will take away all my powers? Like I won't be able to swing off buildings or anything anymore.
Man, I cannot imagine that. Especially, it looks like you've been on some maybe non-natty substances for the next Marvel movie. You know, it's only too bad though that Pat isn't here because I really want to know a Patch physio fun fact. And Spider-Man, from my understanding, he didn't go to physiotherapy. If only Pat was here to give us a physio fun fact.
Pretty sure my name was Peter Parker, Doctor of Physical Therapy, but hold on, Pat will be back.
Spider-Man, where did he? What's going on here? Oh man, for the listeners, Spider-Man has just left the audience. Oh man, who's coming? Whoa!
Whoa! Oh,
Pat,
Amra.
Pat, where did you come from? Where's Spider-Man?
Oh man, so Spider-Man came to get me. I took a nap after studying, and Spider-Man came by to tell me that was Natty News time.
Oh man. Oh well, Pat. I'm a little disappointed you didn't wear your costume today, especially since I'm now the Natty Ninja trying to stop the Gain's Goblins.
No, I was really asleep. Spider-Man may have to give me his shirt.
All right, enough of this bit. All right. Anyways, to our listeners and watchers, we sincerely apologize. We had to do a Halloween bit. Uh, but Pat, as I take off this silly mask, how about you give us a physio fun fact?
Oh, absolutely. All right, here we go. Today's fun fact is it. I don't think it's too interesting, but you guys might. So everybody knows about the biceps, right? Amber, how often do you bicep curls?
Oh, dude, bicep curls every day now, trying to get some 18-inch pythons.
Right now. So, what do you think the main function of the bicep is?
Um, I would say for like squeezing.
Okay, like what it's like it does this, right? That's what
Yeah,
biceps do,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, that's wrong. So there's the fun fact. So the main function of the bicep is not actually to do a curl. The main function of the bicep is actually to do supination, which is this motion. Okay, now if you don't buy it, so do it with me. So do this motion. Put your palm this way. Put your hand in your bicep. Now twist your palm. Feel your bicep turning on.
Holy crap.
Now, if your hand's like this and you try to flex your bicep, feel how hard it gets.
Mhm.
Now turn your palm this way. Now squeeze your bicep. So that is actually the main function of the biceps. Raising the question, what's the muscle that whose main job is to do this,
Yeah.
right? And the answer to that is there's a muscle underneath your bicep before it gets to your bone and before it gets to your tricep, and it's called a brachialis, and that is a muscle deep in here, kind of right down the shaft here, and its main job is to flex and extend your arm. So that's a muscle you probably didn't even know you had.
Oh man. No, I had no idea. Okay. So is that why when you do dumbbell curls, the old bro knowledge was to always supinate your wrist as you're coming up? Is that the idea of it so that you're working more of like the full arm?
Yeah, exactly. It's because doing any curl is really really good for like brachialis, the little guy here, but it's not as thick. So if you want to look good, you want to get the bicep, and the bicep only functions best when you involve the supination. So the
Okay, so
bros are
now
right.
now I'm thinking though, so then does that mean kind of like doing barbell curls and like machine curls are kind of not as efficient as just doing dumbbell curls with the supination?
To maximize bicep targeting in isolation in particular, yes, right? But you don't always have to do it in isolation. And because with barbell curls, you are supinated, you're holding supination and working from there. And biceps do curl and extend your arm. They're still effective, but like the way to most feel the biceps and make sure you get it for sure is to supinate and curl. Supinate and curl.
Okay, now I'm thinking too then. You know those like wrist curl machines? Like there's some of them where you just kind of like rotate your wrist, and
Yeah.
would that then be more of a bicep isolation and doing any type of curling motion?
It's not bad, but the problem though is that with like supination, is the amount of torque you can create is limited
Mm-hmm.
because you're just this is the only range you can get. So that's why you probably have to involve the flexion part of it in order to really get the biceps going. But not to say that like that probably does work the biceps, but might not be enough for you to like you'll have to do this quite a few times in order to get sufficient fatigue to give a good stimulus.
Well, Pat, now I'm gonna go to the gym, take the heaviest dumbbell, and see what my one rep max is of this supination.
Let me know that that'd be a strange way to tear a bicep.
That you know that kind of makes sense because I also was thinking like I was thinking about this before, but why is that people's reverse curls are so much weaker than when you have your hands facing up? Like when you have your
Yeah,
palms down doing a reverse curl, like people are normally much weaker. And I was kind of thinking like,
yeah,
why is that? And now it makes a little more sense because you're not supinating the wrist, you're not activating as much of the bicep.
yeah. You only get the little guy, Brachialis here, and then you get your forearms.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't get your big guns into it, right? Like, yeah, exactly.
Oh man, dude, that is actually very interesting. So, man, that kind of blows my mind about now bicep training.
Every week until I run out of facts.
Yeah, holy crap. That's really interesting. So, it does make sense though about that. Like, just you can feel it so prominently, and yeah, most pros and most people who just watch people work out, you always see that supination, and I could be kind of curious about why you do it. So, is it kind of so then I'm kind of thinking, why is it when you're in a hammer curl position, people could do the most when they hammer curl than when they could do any other type of curling thing? What advantage do you have in that situation?
Yeah. Well, when you're hammer curled, you what you get going is this big guy up
Mm-hmm.
here, your brachioradialis. Now that's a pretty substantial muscle, right? And what it also does is shortens the range. Like when your palm up, when your palm up, you can go up to here.
Yeah.
With your thumb up, with the dumbbell, imagining it up here, you get stopped a little bit early. The range of the motion is shorter too, right? Like this versus this. And to some people, supination is not a strong because supination is active, pronation is kind of active, and this is kind of decently passive. You show the hand here. This is passive, right? So it doesn't require extra work involved in the twisting of the forearm. So you could potentially lift the most weight that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does make sense. That is interesting. Oh man. You know, before we got on live, I was telling Pat every physio fun fact changes how I train. Like I've been doing lat raises as now I'm not lat raises, sorry, side raises as a powerlifting movement. So just wait for me to do 100-pound dumbbells on the side raise. And now I'm gonna be thinking about the supination whenever I do any bicep curl. I am like I feel like I'm getting a physiotherapy degree.
That's all we learned. Like when you get a natty news is pretty much 90% of the week covered in a couple minutes.
Oh man, no, that's actually a really cool one. Awesome. Anyways, So, Pat, I know you were taking a nap, but we were talking to Spider-Man about gains goblins, those things that hold you back from maximizing your gains. So, do you want to start us off? What's a gain goblin you face in your life?
My biggest gain goblin is probably well, it's probably exactly what I was just doing. It's probably sitting and lying down. Um, because with but and this is usually news to people who think I'm extremely active because I'm a personal trainer and I go to school for physical therapy, which involves exercise. But I spend most of my day sitting there doing lectures from like anywhere from like 8 to 4, and then I sit on the bus to get to school, and I sit on the bus to go home, and then I sit down and eat, and I sit down watch Netflix, sit down do homework. So all the hours sitting down is actually, yeah, it's like genuinely detrimental, and everyone always talks about that because your body's meant to move, and when you don't, like a small thing to think about is your veins, which bring blood back, right? One of the main, most effective ways that blood goes back to your heart is there are pumps in your foot. So when you pump your feet on the ground by stepping, it helps like venous drainage, right? So when you just sit there all the time, you get pooling. You ever felt like shitty and kind of like like there's like some pooling in your legs from sitting for too long? Like that's exactly what it is. And we know that we've talked about more blood flow, getting through more of the day. That's more gains. Like really, you're getting more nutrients, more recovery. If you're an active person, if you're trying to get adaptations, you gotta, have good blood flow. And all the sitting is not doing it for me. Also, going from sitting down all the time to, okay, we're gonna snatch 100, 110, 120 kilos today. It's like my body's just like, what is going on? Then before I was back in school when I'd have a nice active day. My body was kind of ready to go. Even when I have to go exercise, it feels like it's ready to go. So that's me. That's my first one.
Man, dude, I completely agree with you on this. I think sitting and lying it can be so dangerous to do. And to kind of comment on that training thing too, it's also like when you're sitting and lying, everything gets tight. Like your hips are tight, your shoulders are tight, you're just not feeling good. So when you get to the gym and you have to start doing your snatches or your bench pressing, your squatting, anything like that, it just feels uncomfortable. It just feels crappy.
Yep.
And then you have to maybe do a longer warm up, and then you're not feeling the same motivation. You're like, maybe today's not a good day for me, and then you might just half-ass your workout, come home, and again, just kind of like ruins everything. I think especially nowadays with working from home, one thing I try to do is like make mini walks during the day. Like every like hour or two, I just get up and I just walk around my apartment, like just like back and forth. And like it's a little silly, yeah, but it's also like it gets a little blood flowing. So especially if I know I'm gonna do an activity soon, I just want to like move around, get ready to go, and make those gains. But sitting and lying really is like the detrimental of modern life.
Yeah, it's huge. And we talked before about how foam rollers aren't super useful. That's probably a good little use of them though. If you have like 3 minutes, just like run that thing through your quads and calves and just like get some blood flow back, especially if if your legs are just feeling all pulled up.
So now, Pat, I have a question for you. So you know how
Yeah.
some people they were saying like instead of sitting on on a chair, I sit on an exercise ball, and I feel so much better like that. Do you think there's some truth to that, or do you think that's just some like BS marketing and stuff like that?
I think there's some truth to it, but I also think it's not for everyone. So with the exercise ball, what happens is, if you just think about it, the exercise ball is more difficult to sit on than a chair. Like I'm just reclined right now, right? Meaning that you end up doing more work, meaning that you end up activating your core more at a low grade. Like your core and your hips and all that are like kind of like low grade activated the entire time you're sitting. Rather than when you sit on a chair, you're literally just like off. So, if you're looking for it is more active than sitting on a chair. It's just not for me because I don't know, when I'm doing work, I I don't want to be that active. Like I kind of want to spend my energy on what I'm doing, and I don't want to lose my focus and fall off the ball. But No, the ball's a good option for people who is appropriate for.
Yeah, I could see that. Man, although I've just gotten so used to working in my bed. Like, I don't know how you are, Pat, with working from home, but sometimes I legit stay in bed till like noon, and then I go make some lunch, and then I get out and move to my desk.
No, I can't. I gotta get up and work. I'm my this is a detour, but worth talking about. My like productivity zone is lights off with like some lo-fi music blaring, and for some reason the lights off just really aids my productivity. I don't know why.
I could see that. I think I'm more productive in the evenings and in the day as well, which is funny because I do like working out and stuff in the morning. I guess physically I'm more productive in the morning, but in the evening it's more mentally stimulating.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know people who wake up at 5 a.m. to do stuff, exercise, work, and I don't really get it.
Yeah, to each their own. Hey,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, sitting and lying, real Gains Goblin, really something to try to avoid. Like, I mean, again, we have to, but I think getting up and walking around and just moving and foam rolling, that's actually a good idea. It's always a good
Yeah.
way to ensure you don't get too stiff from there.
Yeah.
Uh, Pat, do you want to hear what I truly believe is the biggest Gains Goblins ever?
Let me know. Let me know.
Oh man, I'm gonna drop a bomb on here. I think the biggest Gains Goblin is commuting. I think
Yeah.
commuting, like I look back about like, when did I lose the most gains, or when did I like not train as hard as I should, or won't on top of everything, and it truly is when I had the longest commute to get anywhere, and it seems a little silly because commuting, like either you take some public transit, like a bus or something, or you're in your car. And it's like, why would that be taking so much? And I think it breaks down to a few points. One is what we mentioned before, that you're just sitting. That if you have a long commute, you're just sitting for a long time, and that gets you stiff and like not the best to get out there. Another thing is time consuming. Like if you're in a long commute, like let's say you have to work for 8 hours and you have to commute
Yeah.
1 hour, that means 10 hours of your day is gone. And so then
Yeah.
another factor of it too is not only the time, but also I get tired when I have to commute somewhere. Like commuting is like mentally exhaustive, and especially like busing or driving. Like I don't know about you, Pat. I'm not one of those people who can like turn off my brain on the bus or something. Like it's. I know some people can just like shut down, even take a nap. I've never had the pleasure of doing that, so I feel exhausted doing it. So when I get home after like a bus ride back from school or something, even though I didn't do anything physical, I'm tired. Like I don't want to leave. I just want to stay home for the rest of the day and not do anything. And so I really think commuting is the biggest gains goblins in my life. And like now kind of realizing that, and with the work from home, which is very nice for that, I kind of like optimally find where I live, being like it has to be close to grocery stores, close to a gym, close to like all the stuff I want to do, like be very walkable and all that. Like, man, I think that's been like the biggest change in recent years that have helped me make more gains.
Oh man, I really agree with this. I can relate. I spend on weekdays close to 2 hours in the bus. But unlike you, probably because I've been forced to do this, I completely shut down the bus. So I'll close my eyes whether or not I'm tired, and I get roasted about this quite a bit. But even if I'm not tired, I'll just shut my eyes because I'm like, there's nothing else to do, and this is probably my best chance to just, you know, kind of down regulate my nervous system a little bit and not be so, stressed out or whatnot. So yeah, I try to do that, but yeah, it's draining, especially after a long day. I'm like, oh man, it's another hour till I get home. And then that's probably the moment where before I left my place of work, I would have said, okay, I'm ready to go to the gym. And then I'll get home and I'll be like, shit, like I've got to eat now and I just like don't want to move. So that is so relatable. And I think, Anwar, like, you probably know people too who, like, think of the person you know who commutes the most. They're often the most stressed person. Like people who drive like 2 to 3 plus hours a day are, I feel like they're just always at like a grade of like some like low to moderate grade stress, like just the commute itself, and not to mention anything else that can happen in a day. And yeah, a goal of mine too is like, like finances and whatnot are important, but proximity and convenience are huge. If you can save time doing that, then you have more time to be productive and more time to make your gains.
And dude, not only talking about working out, like I think minimizing commuting just gives success in everything else. Like a little bit of an anecdote is for university, for all my years of college and university, I commuted pretty far every year. Like we're talking about like an hour plus commute each way to get to the campus. And in my last year of university, I got a job as a resident advisor, so I got to live in residence. And
Yeah.
man, that is a game changer. Like I was able to do so many more things in that time. My grades were better. I was in more clubs. I did more events. I worked out much, much more during that year than I did before. And I was taking even more classes than I normally do a semester. So, like, that's a huge, huge plus. So, if we got any young Natty News listeners who might be in college or starting college, if you can afford it, man, I highly recommend it. Be as close as you can to campus.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be me soon.
Yeah, because
Need that.
you're pretty
Yeah.
far away nowadays.
Whew, yep. Yeah, and it's true. Like I think even if you use those 2 hours and you don't do much with it, just like the relaxation you get, you're gonna be able to channel that energy for something else. Like I believe energy is limited. No matter
Yeah.
how much you want to push yourself, it's there's a limited cap, so you got to save it.
Not only that, but I think discipline is also a resource where like it does take discipline to wake up early, make sure you catch your bus, and make sure you leave early for work so you can drive and get through the commute. Like that all takes discipline. And I think you have like a limited amount of discipline per day. So when you get home after being so disciplined with all that, and you're like, man, I don't want to work out.
Yeah, like something has to go at some point. Like something will suffer, I think.
And man, we're not even talking about food. Like if you're like commuting all the time, that's when you mostly eat fast food. Like I don't know about you, Pat. Like I don't eat out much unless I'm commuting or I'm seeing people.
Or if you're spending a lot of time out of the house, like when I'm
Yeah.
off on campus, I'm like, well, I ain't bringing food and like in my backpack every day. I'm just gonna buy food. So yeah, you save money too.
Oh, dude, man, I remember like in last year when I was living on residence, I used to go from a class to the local grocery store on campus, then walk back to my dorm room, make a nice lunch, and then go to the next class. Like I got homemade meals every day. It was fantastic.
Whew, the dream.
Yeah, oh man. No, that was honestly, I think that was such a game changer in my mentality. So when I was looking for a place to stay after graduating, I was like, okay, has to be close to a gym, to grocery stores, to some recreational stuff I like to do. And yeah, I don't care how much, if I have to pay more for it, that's so, so important.
You'll save money one way or another, really, honestly, if you find the right spot.
Yeah, especially like I'm not a big fan of driving, so like I want to try to avoid buying a car as long as I possibly can.
I can agree with that.
Oh man. Well, yeah, no, I went on a bit of a rant with that one, but how about you, Pat? Let's bring out what's another Gained Goblin?
Uh, well, so far I've been pretty cookie cutter, so let's bring out the fun one. I think not to say it's bad, but I think maintaining relationships of all sorts can be a Gaines Goblin. Now, before we get completely flamed on this, basically as regular functioning humans and not professional bodybuilders or athletes, we have people we have to be committed with, choose to be committed with, or want to be committed with, and that takes that same energy that we're talking about. Like, I think in any period of my time where I wasn't in a relationship, there's instantly a lot more time. You get to go to dinner with who you want to, or just eat at home. You can skip a lot of social events, and then suddenly you can now spend your 2 hours in the gym that you want to, which may or may not be possible among other commitments. Yeah, but obviously those things are all valuable. But yeah, I think time with people, and then like with family and friends too. Just I think we've been guilty of it too, though. You don't want to just. We're not professional lifters here, so having periods. I know people who will just skip family gatherings and never eat with their family, or go out to dinner and bring their own Tupperwares, like I think it's a little cringy, honestly. Unless you're prepping for a bodybuilding show, it's a little cringy. Like I think it's fine to enjoy those times too, because that's one thing where you don't need to be optimal. I think we need to be people and like spend time with our loved ones.
No, man, I completely agree with you. And I think so you brought up kind of two relationships. Let's over to family one, because I think for people who are younger, that's kind of a difficult one to balance. It's because a lot of times the food you eat with your family might not be the best, might have a lot of fat and carbs, not much protein, and could really maybe, and you might overeat too because it's all so good. So I think that's a real one where people can really get a little too indulgent with that. But again, at Natty News, we're not about ghosting or cutting off relationships. This is a no ghost zone, even though it's just spooky season. Um, so I think the Tupperware thing, I do agree with you. I think it's a little much. Like, of course, if you're prepping for something serious, you have a competition, you really need to get in shape in a timeline. Fully understand. I think your family and loved ones all understand that too. But if it's every time, it does start to be like, yeah, what's the point? Especially when if you know you're gonna go see your family, maybe have a lighter breakfast, don't eat as much, and oh man, if the food's gonna taste so much better if you do that too.
Yeah, definitely. And like also just have to remember it is a total blessing to have delicious food like come on your plate probably for free. That is an amazing thing. And I think you can just make modifications, right? Have a cleaner day, have a cleaner last 2 days. You know what? Sometimes you don't have to eat clean. Just go and eat the meal. It's not even a big deal, right? Like who cares if you wake up a pound heavier tomorrow if you're a little bit inflamed? Like those are all acute things that you can deal with.
Well, I gotta ask you, Pat, though, because whenever I used to come to your house when we were teenagers and stuff, like your parents used to always make very healthy food. Like we're talking about like boiled chicken with some good bok choy and some nice noodles, like
Yeah.
an actual bodybuilding meal. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious. Did you tell your parents that like, hey, I really want to focus on my fitness. Can you maybe make food like this? Or did they just always ate super healthy like that?
Um from what I from obviously from the point I know them, they've always eaten like decently clean. Um Not as much of the protein bit. I think I may have been an influence on that, like the amount of times I asked to eat chicken breast in my early teens. And eventually they were like, hell, we'll eat chicken breast too. So now they like chicken breast more than I do because I've gotten kind of sick of it. But that was my only influence in it. But we ate pretty clean. How about you guys?
Yeah, so I used to live with my grandma who she's from Pakistan, and so she used to make a lot of Pakistani food, which is very heavy on the fat and carbs and stuff, a lot of big rice dishes and stuff like that. And when I started getting more into it, I used to tell her like, can you just like boil some vegetables for me and give that on the side too? So I'd always eat this big bowl of veggies before I'd eat her food. Just so like I can kind of get a little full from that, so I don't overindulge myself. That's been like my little trick to deal with it.
I think a
Um,
lot of people relate to these kind of stories. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, like that's kind of like the secret, and because I mean, again, her food is delicious, and I could eat so much of it. So I try to like eat some vegetables first, and be like, okay, I ate some good stuff. Now I can indulge myself, and then I don't eat too much of that, but I still can enjoy it and have a great meal.
Nice. That sounds brilliant. And obviously it's more or less worked, so it's good.
Yeah, and like when we kind of talk about now I guess romantic relationships, whether it's you're in a committed one or you're in the dating process, it can definitely be tough. I think one of the big things is like when you meet someone, and you can probably agree with this, like I think having a common value in fitness and health is important.
Yeah, that usually I think that usually helps a lot. Having like at least like some sort of philosophy where there it's understood on both ends that it's somewhat important to eat decently clean and to exercise, and that those are actually important things. That those aren't things that should be plugged out, right? Like those aren't things that can just be taken out of the schedule. I think when that's fine, then all things are pretty okay.
Yeah, like I think I've definitely been in relationships where it was definitely I was losing gains in it. Like it was a lot of like going out and eating and maybe like doing other stuff and skipping workouts, and that's fine. Like it's fun and it's good to do, but I think maybe long term it wasn't the best thing for my overall health. But then I'd say like my current one, Nishi, my girlfriend, she does more activity than me and she eats better than I do too. So it's kind of like okay, I have to. It kind of makes me more on top of everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like it's like an anecdote that single people are like the most in shape people, and once people get in a relationship, they kind of turn to pudge, and it's like it's it's a little true, but I think it's just people enjoying people's company, which is fine, but hopefully both people have a little bit of an inclination to fitness, because otherwise, it's easy to just get lost and forget the routine that you had before.
Yeah, especially I think it's good to maybe make like do some stuff together, like doing a class or like doing a type of workout of running together or anything. Like it's a good way to kind of still be bonded together with something, but also like getting a little better instead of like maybe always eating out or going out to a bar or something. Like there's other ways to be fun with your significant other. But again, that's from the relationship perspective. Now, Pat, you're open to the market again. Everyone, check out www.wouldyoudate-my-friend-pat.com to help get this man the love of his life. But Pat, I know from the dating perspective, dating could be a real gains killer.
Oh man, like people think Natty News is a fitness podcast, and then the real listeners know what actually happens in the show. No, I really do think it is, and I think a lot of it is the time thing. Whereas when you're in a relationship, things are somewhat planned. It's like, we're okay on Sunday we're going for dinner, and but then on like Saturday night I have to go to the gym, and then you're gonna do your thing. Like, things are more structured. Whereas the thing about dating is a lot of like randomness. It's like, okay, it's like, you trying to set something up, and it's like, okay, are you free Saturday, Sunday, afternoon, evening, right? And then you might wait on that, or you might set a day, and then that's kind of your day that becomes gone. And with training, it will probably take away a training day or two. And like if you're fully committed to training, then that means you like don't have any flexibility for that kind of stuff, which again there's some sort of a balance there. And then I don't think like the eating and hang out part of dating does any negative detriment to the gains, but I think more so it's like the randomness of it, like having to plan things that are more erratic, whereas like being in any relationship, things are typically more planned, and there's also more of an understanding, whereas it's kind of rude to be like, I don't think I'm free Saturday night, but I'm not really free because I kind of have to do some cleaning jerks. It doesn't come out so good, right?
But Pat, I've definitely seen the phenomenon of guys, like a lot of friends I've had who are out of a relationship, and they're getting back into dating, and like they download the apps and stuff, and then they start trying, and like they get not much success, and they're like, oh man, okay, I gotta go to the gym again.
Yeah, it's an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's like, okay, all right, it's not working out. These apps are not doing well for me right now. Okay, let's get to the gym. Let's eat clean. Let's train hard. Let's get everything going good again. And then it's just like, I could argue sometimes being single and dating around might be the biggest motivator to get in shape.
Yeah, it's an endless cycle. Or people who just come out of relationships, or I don't know if you've seen those memes where it's like any guy with like their headphones on, their eyes are like dead narrow. It's like, yep, they just been through a breakup and they're about to deadlift 500 pounds.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a big thing where you do see that a lot where guys and even girls too who get out of relationships, it's kind of like they go to the gym as a way to not only better themselves but also like, okay, back on the market, got to be the best product I can be.
Yep, it's the age old coping mechanism of making yourself look better.
Oh man. Especially, this is kind of a whole subcategory, but also like getting photos and stuff redone. Like I knew one guy, he recently got out of a new relationship, and he's like, hey Andrew, can you help me out? I gotta get a bunch of new photos now because all the photos of me are like 3 years old.
Nice. It's nothing like it really to make a person better themselves. You just everything. You know, like guys don't usually care about their like attire, and then all of a sudden you see people updating their wardrobe. It's crazy.
I know, but it's also kind of the idea of like you should be doing that constantly too, like because you always want to be good for your partner and always like try to be as good as you can be for them too. So it's one of those things where it's very easy to get complacent in a relationship, and that probably is what kills most of your gains is that complacency.
Yep. Woo. Natty news relationship advice with Anwar today.
Dude, we should get a natty dating coach.
We can get a dating coach on here. Well,
Dude, I
do
would
it.
love. I would want to know. I'm curious about this. About like, you often hear so many guys, like advice for guys who are having trouble finding dates is like you should go to the gym. I want to know how effective advice is that. Like, I think everyone should go working out, but would going to the gym really significantly help your chance of getting a partner?
I think being in shape does help, but I think that's it. It's like it's kind of like on like a rubric sheet. It's like there are different things that you get marks for, and you get your marks, but that's it. You don't pass the exam just by being in shape, which I think some people misunderstand.
Yeah, because like I would say the most important thing is an active social life, which kind of funny enough, the gym doesn't really give.
No way. No way. I've balanced it out, man, but in my peak gym days, there was no social life at all.
That's so yeah, it's hilarious how that works out. But anyways, enough of that. I'm gonna add that to a list. Dating coaches on Natty News. That would be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what's
Okay.
next?
All right. So now the classic one, the one that really always the Gain Goblins of all time until we're retired. Work and school, man. Work and school. I hate being a productive member of society. I wish I could just pick up heavy things and put them down all day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. How has becoming a full working adult affected your gains?
Okay, I'll actually be honest. Working now, and especially with the work from home scenario and being able to minimize commuting, I actually like work out and do more physical activity now than I ever did in any point of my life. Like, even like high school when we literally did nothing besides like hang out and work out. I think I work
Yeah.
out more now than I did back
Woo.
then. And one of the key things is because that with the work from home, I put in my honest 8 hours, maybe an extra one if it's a little busy, and then I can immediately just go to the gym, 10-minute walk, go swimming, go running, go anything, and just have everything in such proximity, where it's really great. But um, again, this is like a special circumstance, but for so many people, man, the work and studying, it can be really rough. Like I remember there was a good like 2 3 year period, actually not 3 years, but 2 year period. I didn't work out consistently because of school. Like I just could never make time for a workout session. It was like, okay, all this commuting and all this BS, and then you're studying for midterms, and you get those done, and oh, boom, the next midterm comes. Like, why do they call it a midterm if it happens like 5 times a semester? If it's the midterm, it's to be once, and it's just like a fiesta of stuff going on, and it can just break you down. And also, I don't think people realize about even if you physically haven't done anything all day, being just mentally strained, it really makes it hard to train. Like mental fatigue really is a difficult thing to overcome when you're trying to work out.
Yeah, yeah, and I know a lot of those like fitness coaches will be like, "That's an excuse. Like you sat in your ass all day. It shouldn't affect you." No, like sitting your ass in your day affects you more than probably moving around doing some stuff all day, right? It drains your brain, and like case example, most of my classmates are like, we just came up midterms, and some of us played some sports or whatnot, and they're like, this is the first exercise we've done the whole month. And these are
Yeah.
previously active people. It does not take long to like break down some people's habits, because all of a sudden you're 40 hours a week stuffing your brain with knowledge, or at work you're doing something that you're either interested in or something that you're doing to support yourself or your family. It's super tiring, and I think those are the people who have a hard time working out. If when we had COVID, and like when we were deep in COVID and we got to work from home, or the early period when we did nothing from home, I made so many gains because it was just like I recovered maximally, right? Do my workout, I could literally lay on the floor for 4 hours after if I wanted to. It's
Dude,
crazy.
I remember when COVID first started for like a 2 month period. No one really knew what was going on, and really you didn't do much for like that first 2 month period. Dude, I got my pull-ups, my weighted pull-ups up to like 50 pounds weighted on my pull-ups. Like that was like the strongest I've ever been at pull-ups was that point for exactly what you're saying. Like there was nothing else to do besides like train, hang out, watch TV, just really that was a dream life.
That's how the best the best weightlifters. That's how they do it. They always talk about, yep. Anytime we're not working out, if we can, we're laying down watching Netflix, getting a massage or something like that. Because yeah, that's the way to recover. But we'll never have that back.
Yeah, I mean, there was good and bad to it. It was
It was good and
enjoyable at the
bad.
time, but yeah, it can be tough too. But yeah, I think, and again, I think it just kind of comes with a lot of things. It's like work-life balance is such an important thing, and for some people, it's tough. You might have to grind out a bit, but it is something I'm starting to really feel like I have to strive more and more for to make sure I can keep up this good work-life balance. Because again, the biggest key to gains is consistency, where as long as you can get a schedule where you can that makes it work, that you can go to the gym however many times you can and recover well, like that's the key. It doesn't matter if you can't work at 5, 6 times a week, 2 or 3, as long as you can do it consistently. That's all you can really hope for.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So that's, yeah, work and social life, work and school life, and then I just want to play off of that. The next one is the social life, right? And that's tough because I mean, most everybody either goes to work or goes to school or goes to both, and then that probably leaves you your evening, which is like a span of maybe 5 or 6 hours, and a lot of the time you will want to do something social, or someone that you love will want to do something social, and you can say no sometimes, but you shouldn't say no all the time. So that takes away from going to the gym. And some people debate, well, you can just go to the gym before work, but um, from my experience, I think not everybody is actually suited to go to the gym at 6 a.m. And also not every gym allows you to go there at 6 a.m. and it can be pretty tough. So yeah, definitely. I've found it very challenging at many times to maintain a social life and have to say no to people just to go to the gym, which seems honestly very strange to me sometimes. So I have to kind of reason that out with myself.
I don't know how many times you've heard this, but I know so many guys and girls, and so many of them, they're like, I can't go out because I'm trying to lose some weight, I'm trying to gain some muscle, and I can't drink. I can't drink alcohol, which there is some truth to that. Like, I think some people not realize, like, alcohol, it's a poison, and so when you do take it, it kind of stops your muscular synthesis and all of that. So it can be a problem. Like people can just go out and be too social, and that could kill your gains. If you're literally every time after working out, you're going to the happy hour, you're getting 5, 6 brewskis down, you're having some good time, you're eating some poutine, being a real old Canadian, like it can break down your gains, man, in no
Yeah.
time. And so again, like Natty News, we're not about being antisocial gym rats. Like you gotta go out, you gotta have see your friends, see your family and all that. But I think it's all again moderation. Like one drink, I think for adults, 1 or 2 drinks doesn't really do much against the protein synthesis and muscle rebuilding. But it really is to kind of know that like, hey, maybe don't go overboard every time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is actually, I mean, I don't think this applies to me and you as much, but there's a lot of people that this does apply to. If you have serious goals, it's just something to keep in mind that um, getting wasted drinking a lot or binge eating a lot, like those things really add up. I think having a drink or two, having a burger, that's fine. Having 8 drinks, 8 burgers, then that's when it becomes a problem week after week.
Dude, you know what I think is actually even worse than actually just drinking is the hangover afterwards. Like, have you ever tried working out hungover?
I indeed have in the morning.
Yeah, you make no gains. You not like it's just crazy how weak and like crappy your body is the next day.
Yeah, I think someone like told me before. They're like, yeah, it's a good way to flush out the toxins. I'm like, I feel the toxins. I don't feel the flushing, and I just want to throw up. It's pretty horrible.
Dude, I think I remember once, like after like a big bender, I tried to work out the next day. I don't think I could bench one plate for 5 reps. Like I think I actually struggled with one plate.
Your body is literally still poisoned. Like it's not over the night of. It's over like the next 2 days.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, and it's true. Like when you go drinking heavy, you're kind of committing to like 3 days. My body's not going to be 100%.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even when you're
and
not hungover,
for
even
sure.
after all that. Because also another thing too is like if you go out for a wild night, you're probably not sleeping much
No.
the night either. Like you're not going to be getting optimal rest either. So it's just there's nothing wrong with having it in a blue moon, but if it becomes a weekly thing, like that really does affect your gains if you're going out every week and you're going kind of wild.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And if if you're reflecting on that, you're making no gains, then perhaps there's something to be changed.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's all about priorities. Maybe at that point of your life, you just want to get wild, and that's fair. But if you are trying to be a little more serious in making those gains, man, yeah, going out, it can be a real gains goblin.
Yeah. Or there's some like rare freaks out there who just don't drink and just attend a party completely sober and supposedly have a great time too. And those are the biggest gains people of them all.
Honestly, if again, I mean, you're not a big drinker, Pat, so I think there are people there who can have a good time without going all wild or anything either.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
All
just
right.
being a. Oh, moving on. All right, I think this next one is a really big one. I think this is one that most of the world doesn't realize. The one of the biggest gains goblins is not listening to Natty News. Now, being a little silly here with it, but I think one of the gains goblins is not educating yourself as much about fitness and everything. Like I think sometimes people get into one type of workout routine. It might be the first thing that their buddy showed them or they saw on YouTube, and they kind of commit to that, and they think that's the most optimal way. Where it really isn't true. And I think one of the fun things about lifting is kind of like figuring out things, trying out new stuff, seeing what you can do to get yourself bigger, stronger, just better in shape. Like what really works for you. And so I think not educating yourself can be a big gains goblin. Now, Natty News has, I mean, impacted me immensely. Like we were talking with Patch Physio Fun Facts, that's impacted the way I train all the time. And so I think that could really be a big gains goblin is not learning more, not really keeping your mind open to all the fitness resources out there.
I really agree, and I think we had a discussion earlier too on how I didn't feel like I had a compelling enough fun fact for the day, and then I realized like a lot of what like we think is common boring knowledge is people don't know it. Like a lot of people don't know that if you're have a strain, you shouldn't take anti-inflammatories. To me, that's like common sense, but to most people that can really change if they get hurt or people. A lot of people actually don't know that the muscle doesn't get rebuilt until you walk out of the gym, right? And if people really understand that, I think they would naturally be compelled to eat a little better and rest because, it's just the education. Because a lot of people still think, oh, it's in the gym. We kill the muscle now. This gives us gains, right? And so yeah, I mean, educating yourself, watching Natty News. I think everyone who watched Natty News has told me that they've learned something of note about training that and not useless science too. It's like stuff they can actually put into their own lifestyle easily.
Dude, progressive overload alone, I think is such a huge thing people miss out on. Like you can literally go to the gym for years, do the exact same thing, and you'd make gains, but you wouldn't make as much as if you just kept on overloading and getting better and stronger.
Yeah, it's strange. You hear a lot of people go to the gym, and I'm like, okay, what do you work on? They're like, oh, we just do some cardio and some like whatnot. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what are you working on at the moment? Oh, just going to the gym. We just stay fit. I'm like, and that's okay, but it's like, it doesn't take that much more to make some gains. That's the thing. You just have to hit like 2 hard sets for a muscle group, and you can make some good progress. Or just do 10 seconds more, or do 2 more reps than last week, and that's all it takes. You don't have to go balls to the wall, and you can make so much progress. So I just think everyone, it'd be good for everybody to know that hey, making progress at the beginning especially, it's not that hard, right? You can agree with that. Like beginner progress is so easy. It's so easy to ride that progress.
Yeah, so I think not educating yourself, not learning more about it can be a big one, and not listening to natty news. All right, I think we have time
Yeah.
for one more, Pat. Do you want to close us off with the last Gain Goblin?
The last Gain Goblin, this is half a joke, but it's true, is any desire to be an athlete will be a bit of a Gains Goblin, and it's funny. And I think this is just like a mark of changing priorities, where at one point in our lives, it was about having the biggest possible deadlift, or the biggest arms, or the biggest chest, or the best abs, or whatever. But what that does is it takes away from being able to participate in sports, become more athletic, and all that. But that stuff does not require maximal strength or power. So, Anwar, you like to swim and run and do jujitsu nowadays, a lot of which requires some endurance, and will probably take away from you becoming the physically strongest version of yourself. And you might, if you're doing that, you might never hit your potential, and you kind of have to weigh out how much that matters to you. And for me, I still like to compete in weightlifting, but it kind of sucks sometimes that I have to skip like basketball or tennis or cheer or volleyball or whatever I want to participate in, because the more I do it, the more sore I get, or I run the risk of getting hurt or whatnot. And yeah, it's an interesting balance to be set, and I think doesn't mean you have to do one thing or the other, but my opinion is that everyone should probably think about it, like think about what their goals are, that if you want to do a bunch of sports, then you have to accept you're not going to make maximal gains in the gym, and vice versa, right? If you're going to always go really hard in the gym, don't expect to be the most athletic version of yourself, because it will make you a little bit slow, a little bit tired, a little bit sore, and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I know a running meme in the old school bodybuilding.com days was cardio kills your gains. And as kind of silly as that statement sounds, it is kind of true, where cardio, doing these other spurts and stuff, they can kill your gains, but it's also an idea of like, how do you want to live your life? Like, do you really want to just go work out, immediately come home, eat your chicken breast and rice and broccoli, and then lie down and sleep for 12 hours to get optimal muscle reconstruction, and then do that again for the next 60, 70 years? Or do you want to kind of, try out other stuff, have fun? Maybe you're 10, 15 pounds less muscular than you would if you just focused on bodybuilding and strength training, but I'd say you'd have a more enjoyable life.
Exactly, exactly. There's a book I read in grad school. We had to read a chapter in about this guy's autobiography, and how he was like a Wall Street dude. And he got sucked into the world of bodybuilding, and that's what he did. He took roids. Didn't even have a home. I think he lived in like some like little communal home with some bodybuilders, and worked out. No social life. Went home, rinse and repeat. Eventually, one day he left the gym and never went back to it. He was like, he realized what he was doing, right? Like, it was so toxic to him.
Yeah, I think that could be a message about anyone who wants to be a specialist. It's kind of like you have to give up a lot to be a specialist. Where, for me, and I guess for you too, Pat, like I think the generalist way of just being good at a bunch of stuff might be more enjoyable. But for some people, that's what they want to do, and again, more power to them.
Yeah, well, I'm still mostly living my specialist life, but like I used to think, oh yeah, I'll weightlift for as long as I can, but starting to think there's gonna be a day where I don't want to lift 5 days a week anymore, and like I want to do sports and do more social gatherings. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
Oh man, Pat talking about some of these gain goblins, they're not as scary as I thought.
I think we can beat them, or some of them will just let them beat us. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll take the L in the sports.
everyone can live you can live a balanced life, and again, we say the same stuff a lot of times, but it really is true. It's just about finding a good balance between all of them. And again, at the end of the day, making gains isn't that serious.
Yeah, exactly. It ain't that serious, but just like, hey, do it. The more optimally you do it, the less seriously you can take it, because that means you're doing less stuff wrong.
Exactly. All right, any last things you want to close out on?
No, we hope everybody has a amazing Halloween, even though this is coming out after Halloween. So we hope you had an amazing Halloween. And well, I mean, the message of the episode today is, hey, if you know someone who will benefit from some natty news, so they can stop suffering from the Gains Goblins, then yeah, hit us up on our Spotify or our YouTube or our Instagram account at Natty News Podcast. And that's all I have to say.
Well, now that Halloween's over, I can't wait for Natty Christmas. Anyways, Natty News out.
Natty News out.